Your enemies expect you to break, to bend, to beg for their approval. They're wrong. You're not here to play their game, you're rewriting the rules. This is the Sigma male community, where we forge men who don't just survive but thrive in a world that demands conformity. Welcome to a journey of raw, unapologetic power, where stoic wisdom meets the unrelenting drive of the Sigma mindset. Today we're diving into 11 genius ways mature Sigmas transform with age, turning their enemy schemes into dust. This isn't about petty revenge, it's about becoming so formidable that your mere presence shames those who dare oppose you. Let's unlock the strategies that make you untouchable, grounded in resilience, rational thinking, and the kind of self-mastery that leaves rivals scrambling. 1. The tectonic presence shift. A young Sigma moves like a ghost, slipping through the cracks of a noisy world, unnoticed and unbothered. But as time carves wisdom into his bones, that invisibility hardens into something far more potent, a gravitational force that commands without a word. Picture an enemy seething, waiting for your outburst, craving the drama they can exploit. Instead, they're met with a void, a stillness so profound it unnerves them. This isn't weakness, it's strategic mass, a calculated refusal to engage on their terms. Stoicism teaches us to control what we can and let the rest burn itself out. The Sigma's silence becomes a fortress, each unspoken word a brick in its walls. Enemies exhaust themselves swinging at shadows, their fury dissolving into frustration as they realize they're fighting a man who's already won by refusing to play. This shift isn't just power, it's a statement. Your chaos doesn't move me. Stay with the Sigma male community to master this unshakable presence, where your absence speaks louder than their noise. Every withheld reaction amplifies the Sigma's mystique. Imagine a rival, puffed up with bravado, hurling insults to provoke a response. The Sigma's calm gaze, devoid of fear or anger, forces them to confront their own insecurity. Stoic philosophy reminds us that we don't control others' actions, only our own responses. By choosing silence, the Sigma turns the enemy's energy against them, letting their aggression implode. This isn't passivity, it's a deliberate act of dominance, a refusal to let fleeting emotions dictate the battlefield. The beauty of this tectonic shift lies in its economy. The Sigma doesn't need to raise his voice or flex his ego to assert control. His restraint becomes a mirror, reflecting the enemy's desperation back at them. While others scramble for attention, the Sigma's quietude creates ripples that unsettle entire rooms. Enemies, expecting a predictable reaction, find themselves disoriented, their plans unraveling against a man who's mastered the art of being untouchable. This is why the Sigma male community exists, to guide you toward this kind of power. It's not about loud victories or fleeting clout. It's about cultivating a presence so formidable that your enemy's attacks dissolve before they even land. Keep watching, keep refining, because the world will test you, but a true Sigma's stillness is his ultimate weapon. 2. Emotional Aikido mastery. Forget the stereotype of the cold, detached Sigma. The mature Sigma wields understanding like a blade, turning an enemy's rage into their own undoing. Picture a heated confrontation. Your rival's voice cracks with fury, their words dripping with venom. Instead of matching their fire, you pause, nod, and say, "Your frustration makes sense given the pressure you're under." The room freezes. Their attack falters, disarmed by your calm acknowledgement of their weakness. Stoicism teaches us to see emotions as data, not destiny. By reading the blueprint of their anger, its roots in fear, insecurity, or envy, you neutralize it without lifting a fist. This mastery comes from years of introspection, a stoic practice of dissecting your own emotions to understand others. The Sigma doesn't just deflect hostility, he redirects it, using the enemy's momentum against them. A single, well-placed observation can unravel their entire strategy. Imagine an opponent expecting a shouting match, only to find their rage met with piercing insight. They're left stammering, their aggression exposed as fragility. This isn't just defense, it's psychological warfare, executed with surgical precision. Enemies crave resistance, it fuels their narrative. But when you validate their emotions without endorsing their actions, you pull the rug from under them. Stoic wisdom emphasizes clarity over chaos, and the Sigma uses this to turn hostility into a mirror of the enemy's flaws. They can't fight empathy they don't understand, and their attacks dissolve into confusion. This is the power of emotional Aikido. You don't block the blow, you guide it past you, letting it crash into nothing. The Sigma male community is your forge for this skill. We don't teach you to shut down or shut out, we teach you to see through. Stay engaged with us to learn how to wield understanding as a weapon, dismantling your enemy's strongest attacks with the quiet strength of a man who's mastered himself first. 3. The unshakable currency of no. In a world addicted to validation, the mature Sigma's power lies in a single word. No. It's not just refusal, it's a declaration of sovereignty, a laser-guided missile against distraction and mediocrity. Picture a manipulative rival, dangling a hollow opportunity, maybe a pointless debate or a draining alliance, expecting you to bite. You decline, calm and final, your no cutting through their expectations like a blade. Stoicism teaches us to guard our time and energy, reserving yes for what aligns with our purpose. This curated solitude isn't isolation. It's a war room where every decision serves your mission. Enemies thrive on chaos, guilt, or obligation, but the Sigma's refusal starves their tactics. Imagine a colleague pushing you into a petty workplace feud, hoping to drag you into their drama. Your polite but firm no leaves them stranded, their script useless. This isn't arrogance, it's clarity born from years of discerning what truly matters. The Sigma's life is a fortress of priorities, and no is the gatekeeper, ensuring only the worthy pass through. This discipline unnerves opponents because it exposes their reliance on external validation. While they scramble to please or provoke, the Sigma's refusal signals a man untethered from their games. Stoic philosophy reminds us that true power lies in controlling what we allow into our lives. By saying no to the trivial, the Sigma creates space for the monumental, rendering manipulative ploys irrelevant. The Sigma male community is here to sharpen this skill. We guide you to wield no with precision, to build a life where every choice propels you forward. Stay with us because in a world screaming for your attention, the ability to refuse is your greatest currency. For purpose as a siege engine. Young Sigmas build internal fortresses, shielding their minds from the world's noise. But with age, that fortress becomes a siege engine, a purpose so focused it obliterates meaninglessness. Picture a Sigma pouring his energy into a craft, a business, a book, a legacy, while his enemies chase fleeting status symbols. They mock his lack of ambition, because he doesn't play their game of likes and titles. But when his work reshapes industries or inspires thousands, they're left gaping, realizing he's redefined victory on terms they can't touch. Stoicism teaches us to anchor our lives in what endures, and the Sigma's purpose is his battering ram against the superficial. This isn't about competing, it's about creating. The Sigma doesn't fight for scraps on his enemy's turf. He builds a parallel reality where their metrics don't apply. Imagine a rival obsessed with social clout, sneering at the Sigma's quiet dedication. Years later, that rival's chasing trends while the Sigma's work stands as a monument to meaning. This purpose-driven life isn't just personal, it's a quiet revolution, dismantling systems built on hollow noise. Enemies falter because they can't comprehend this long game. Stoic wisdom emphasizes focusing on what's within our control, our effort, our vision, our values. The Sigma channels this into a relentless pursuit, each step a calculated strike against mediocrity. His purpose isn't loud, but its impact is seismic, leaving rivals scrambling to catch up to a man who's already moved the battlefield. The Sigma male community is your blueprint for this transformation. We don't chase applause, we build legacies. Stay with us to learn how to turn your purpose into a force that doesn't just win battles but renders your enemy's entire playbook obsolete. 5. Vulnerability as armor-piercing ammo. Here's the genius twist. Strategic vulnerability isn't weakness, it's a weapon that shatters expectations. Picture a moment where a rival expects the Sigma stoic mask, but instead he shares a calibrated truth, a past failure or a hard-earned lesson. The room shifts. That raw honesty, delivered with precision, dismantles the cold robot myth and reveals a depth enemies can't match. Stoicism teaches us to embrace truth, even when it stings, because owning our story makes us untouchable. This isn't reckless openness, it's a calculated strike, proving the Sigma's strength lies in authenticity, not posturing. Imagine an adversary banking on your silence, ready to paint you as distant or weak. A single, deliberate admission, "I lost everything once and it taught me what matters," stops them cold. They expect indifference, but your controlled honesty exposes their shallow definitions of strength. This vulnerability, wielded at the right moment, pierces their armor, leaving them scrambling to respond to a man who fears neither judgment nor exposure. Stoic philosophy reminds us that true power comes from self-mastery, not hiding flaws but transcending them. The Sigma's vulnerability isn't a crack in his armor, it's proof he's beyond the need for it. Enemies, reliant on facades, can't compete with a man who's made peace with his scars. Their attacks falter, their projections collapse, and they're left facing a truth they can't counter. The Sigma male community is your guide to wielding this power. We teach you to turn vulnerability into a tool, not a liability. Stay with us to learn how to disarm your enemies with the kind of strength they'll never understand, until it's too late. 6. Social Jiu-Jitsu, turning noise against them. Small talk is a battlefield where most falter, but the mature Sigma turns it into a dojo. He doesn't waste breath on chatter. He masters conversational dominance through minimalism. Picture an enemy ranting, their words a torrent of boasts and veiled jabs. The Sigma listens, then lands a single, piercing question. What outcome are you really hoping this conflict achieves? The room stills. Their agenda unravels, exposed by a man who's turned their noise into his weapon. Stoicism teaches us to observe, not react, and the Sigma uses this to let opponents drown in their own words. This isn't about out-talking anyone, it's about redirecting energy. A well-timed pause after a rival's boast makes their confidence curdle. A subtle nod and a pointed observation, sounds like you're betting a lot on that outcome, forces them to confront their own motives. The Sigma doesn't fight the chatter. He channels it, using the enemy's momentum to reveal their emptiness. This is social jiu-jitsu, where less is more and silence is a blade. Enemies expect a war of words, but the Sigma's economy of speech leaves them swinging at air. Stoic wisdom values clarity over noise, and the Sigma's minimalism exposes the fragility of those who rely on volume. Their rants become background static, while his rare words carry the weight of truth. This mastery unnerves opponents, who realize too late they've been outmaneuvered by a man who speaks only when it matters. The Sigma male community is your training ground for this art. We don't teach you to shout louder, we teach you to cut deeper. Stay with us to master the skill of turning your enemy's noise into their own defeat, one precise move at a time. 7. The Mentor's Shadow Gambit. This isn't about ego-driven mentorship, it's legacy warfare. The mature Sigma invests his wisdom in rising talent, often those overlooked by the mainstream. Picture a young outsider, dismissed by the status quo, mentored by a Sigma who sees their potential. That protégé, forged in the Sigma's principles of resilience and clarity, becomes a silent ambassador, carrying his values into the world. Stoicism teaches us to plant seeds for the future, and the Sigma's mentorship creates a network of allies who operate beyond the enemy's reach. Enemies underestimate this strategy because it's invisible. They focus on the Sigma himself, not realizing he's cultivating a quiet army. These protégés, loyal and principled, embody the values their mentor instilled: self-mastery, focus, independence. When rivals mock the Sigma's lack of influence, they're blind to the ripple effect, a dispersed network of operators reshaping the game on terms the enemy can't touch. This gambit is stoic in its patience. The Sigma doesn't seek applause for his guidance, he seeks impact. By empowering others, he builds a legacy that outlives petty rivalries. Enemies face not just one man but a movement, a quiet revolution that undermines their shallow power grabs. Their influence, built on noise, crumbles against the Sigma's enduring impact. The Sigma male community is your blueprint for this long game. We guide you to invest in others, not for glory, but to build a legacy that shames your enemies by outlasting them. Stay with us to learn how to turn mentorship into a weapon that reshapes the battlefield. 8. Impermanence as a tactical lens. While enemies cling to grudges and titles, the mature Sigma sees life through the lens of impermanence. Setbacks, betrayals, even victories, they're all temporary weather, not the climate. Picture a rival gloating over a minor win, expecting to rattle you. You nod, unmoved, already focused on a larger goal. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what lasts, our principles, our purpose, while letting fleeting dramas dissolve. This detachment isn't apathy, it's strategic clarity, ensuring energy is spent only on battles that matter. This perspective disarms enemies because it starves their chaos. They waste resources on petty fights, while the Sigma conserves his strength for meaningful fronts. Imagine a colleague obsessed with office politics, plotting to undermine you. You sidestep their game, focusing on your work, knowing their schemes will fade. Months later, they're still scheming while you've secured a legacy-defining project. Their smallness is exposed by your focus on the eternal. Stoic wisdom reminds us that nothing external can truly harm us, only our reaction to it. The Sigma's detachment makes him untouchable, his energy a finite resource reserved for what endures. Enemies, trapped in their short-term grudges, realize too late they're fighting a man who's already moved on to higher ground. The Sigma male community is your guide to this mindset. We teach you to see through the noise, to invest in what lasts. Stay with us to master the art of detachment, turning impermanence into a lens that renders your enemy's efforts tragically irrelevant. 9. Economy of word artillery. Youthful silence evolves into verbal precision, each word a bullet fired with intent. The mature Sigma speaks only when it shifts the battlefield. Picture a heated boardroom. An enemy rants, piling on arguments to bury you. You respond with one sentence. The data shows your approach failed last quarter, and the room falls silent. Stoicism teaches us to value clarity over volume, and the Sigma's sparse words carry devastating weight, cutting through noise like a blade. This economy unnerves opponents because it's unpredictable. They expect a flood of arguments, but the Sigma's single, undeniable fact lands like artillery. Each sentence is stripped of fluff, forged in years of reflection and restraint. When he speaks, people listen, not out of fear but because his words are rare and true. Enemies' endless chatter becomes static, drowned out by the Sigma's precision. Stoic philosophy emphasizes speaking only what serves the truth. The Sigma's verbal discipline turns this into a weapon, making every utterance a calculated strike. Rivals, used to winning through noise, find their tactics useless against a man whose words reshape reality. His sparse communication becomes legendary, feared by those who can't match its impact. The Sigma male community is your forge for this skill. We don't teach you to shout louder, we teach you to speak sharper. Stay with us to master the art of verbal precision, turning every word into a force that puts your enemies to shame. 10. The calibration of controlled fire. The myth of the emotionless Sigma is dead. The mature Sigma wields selective intensity, mastering the emotional spectrum to shatter expectations. Picture a rival pushing too far, expecting your usual calm. Instead, you unleash a rare, focused burst of justified anger, chilling, precise, terrifying. They freeze, their complacency obliterated. Stoicism teaches us to govern our emotions, not erase them, and the Sigma uses this to project authority or warmth with devastating effect. This calibration keeps enemies off balance. Imagine a moment where a potential ally, swayed by a rival's charm, hesitates. You offer a single genuine gesture of warmth, a shared story, a nod of respect, and they're won over. The Sigma's ability to shift from cold authority to profound connection makes him unpredictable, impossible to pigeonhole. Rivals can't counter a man who controls the emotional battlefield. Stoic wisdom reminds us that emotions, when mastered, are tools. The Sigma's controlled fire, whether a spark of anger or a flicker of empathy, disarms opponents who rely on stereotypes. They expect a robot, they get a man who's mastered himself so completely he can wield any emotion with precision. This versatility becomes their undoing. The Sigma male community is your guide to this mastery. We teach you to calibrate your intensity, to wield emotions as weapons. Stay with us to learn how to keep your enemies guessing, their plans crumbling against a man who's always one step ahead. 11. Becoming the terrain, the ultimate victory. The final evolution is the Sigma's ultimate triumph. He stops fighting and becomes the terrain. His unwavering values, honed purpose, and deep self-acceptance create an immovable foundation. Picture an enemy hurling attacks, expecting a battle. Instead, they're shouting into a canyon, their words echoing back as proof of their own inadequacy. Stoicism teaches us to root ourselves in what we control, our character, our choices, and the Sigma's life becomes a landscape where rivals' tactics simply don't apply. This isn't about declaring victory, it's about making enemies irrelevant. The Sigma's existence, his disciplined life, his quiet impact, sets the rules. Rivals who thrive on chaos find their schemes powerless against a man who's built a world on his own terms. They attack, but it's like fighting gravity. The Sigma's stability exposes their fragility. Even former foes, exhausted by their own futility, begin to see his ground as the only place worth standing. Stoic philosophy reminds us that true power lies in becoming unassailable, not by force but by being. The Sigma's life, his work, his values, his calm, becomes a beacon, drawing others while rendering opponents obsolete. This is victory without a fight, a triumph so complete it redefines the battlefield. The Sigma male community is your path to this ultimate power. We guide you to become the terrain, to build a life so solid that your enemy's attacks crumble into irrelevance. Stay with us because this is the Sigma's final evolution, not just winning but redefining what victory means. You've just uncovered 11 genius ways Sigmas transform with age, turning their enemies' schemes into shadows of their own making. This is the Sigma male community, your forge for building a life of unshakable strength, guided by stoic wisdom and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Don't just watch, act. Reflect on these strategies, apply them, and watch your rivals falter against the man you're becoming. If this video lit a fire in you, smash that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and share it with the men in your circle who need this wisdom. If you're subscribed, hit that notification bell to never miss a step on this journey. The world's noisy but your path is clear. Keep building, keep refining, and let the Sigma male community guide you to a life that doesn't just shame your enemies, it makes them irrelevant. See you in the next one.